Okay, so what this is going to be eventually, guys, is the A&S show and tell, but everybody is super shy, so nobody wants to go first. So we're just going to look at Willem for now. And
Me! Pick me!
I think we have a volunteer.
Let's go. So, okay.
I was like, it's 1:30 in the morning. Why am I still awake?
13th court book that I've put together. And easily the best one yet. There's more to come, probably.
20? Is there going to be 20? Is that what there's going to be?
Well, there's 20 kingdoms.
Yeah.
So, at least. The Baron and Baroness of Castle Rouge, David and Claire, have been very good friends. And they don't know they're getting this, but I guess they might now.
If you're watching David and Claire, just turn it off.
No.
Let's post a spoiler note. If you're David and Claire, do not watch.
So, I made this for them. Obviously, it's got Castle Rouge. It's a gift from Avacal to them. So we have the Red Griffin of Avacal and the Barony of Mergenwood, the Golden Griffin of North Shield, and the Castle of Castle Rouge. And then on the inside, as is my wont, I have done this. This is David's personal heraldry and Claire's. What I liked the most about this book, though, was what I put on the back. Most of my court books have the standard phrase, my lords, my ladies, pray attend, etc., etc. But this one was a bit different because it's a gift. So I've always held to the principle that the greatest gift life has to offer is to find good friends to share. So that's what's on the back of my gift to the Baron and Baroness, with a bear paw in the background so they know who it's from. And then on the spine, Bear made this, and of course there has to be a rabbit if it's going to Castle. So, this is the latest, not the last, of my court books. Anybody have a question?
How many hours does it take to make those?
These are 70 to 80 hours.
And how did it start? Like from Gen 1 court book, was that about the same? Or have you improved your process?
I've improved the process. I'm doing more art in less time. The stitching is done better and is done faster. It's down to about 7 or 8 hours to stitch this together. And I've gotten better at, the part I liked the most here was the background, the tan here. I just really enjoyed the way that came together on this one. I've perfected a technique to make it look even better now. So that means I might have to redo the Avacal book again. No. Anyway, that's it.
Yay! Woo! Hey, Willem, can you maybe bring a chair over so that we can use that as a really great presentation spot?
Absolutely, I can.
You're up, lady.
Oh,
Yep. You're on deck.
So, this is the scroll that was given to Era. And, can you see it?
Ah, yeah.
But this may be her.
I'll see it closer when they come around.
Yeah, I guess you can pass it around after.
We don't know how much she's going to be involved with the SCA once she leaves here. So I tried to incorporate in the symbolism around here her involvement with the SCA to this point. So she started off in single Hondas.
Single Hondas.
So those are the dogs that were single Hondas. And she's with Avacal. So there's a griffin. She's part of Delarouche, so we have the D. Mergenwood is the tree. Her symbol is the little rabbit. Raoul uses the
Rowl.
Raoul.
It's a rowl.
uses the six-pointed star.
Yeah.
And Roxanne uses the little fleur-de-lis. And Era has several involvements with the SCA. So she, at one time, did a little bit of rapier fighting. And she, of course, worsted seamstress type stuff.
That rapier image though is actually a dress I used to own.
So the seamstress is here. She's done all sorts of things with scribble arts, plus she's done things online and that sort of thing. So best I could come up with was the little symbolism of the quill pen and scribing here. Her pelican is Billy Bee. So we got the bees in there. She does feasting, cooking for the feast, so we got that in there. And we have the prairie lily for the region here. She does illumination herself, and this is a style that she quite often uses when she does it. And
I think you got it all.
I think I got it all in there.
It's really gorgeous.
Like, I'm impressed with how much reference and symbolism you got in here. Also, that dress you depicted, I have not owned in 15 years at least, so that's impressive too.
Including your little hat.
Yeah, including the hat.
I think it's hilarious that during court you flat out said, "How did you do that?"
Well, I thought she brought it up with her, and I'm like, when did you hand this off so we came together? Then I found out she actually mailed it to them months ago.
Ah.
You can hand it around if you want.
Yeah.
There's some beautiful detail in there.
Still needs to be signed. But
That's okay. I know where they live.
see it.
Yeah.
Calligraphy sucks, but
You know what? It's 1,000 times better than mine as a lefty. Yeah. It's probably the nicest scroll I have. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So much love about that.
Yeah. I didn't even really see the rowel in the fleur-de-lis, so I just noticed more.
It's one of those pieces that you can look back in a few months, weeks, days,
Cry
and
every
find something
time?
and find something new.
I cry every time I look at it. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, nothing worked. Right. Guess I'm gonna go talk about stuff.
Derek, do you want this back in the, or do you want it?
I can just chill it here for now. I wasn't gonna present this, but I'm going to know this. I made a cotton candy colored Greek outfit this week. I had a whole year and a half to do it, and I did it in the last 4 days. That's right. Doing it right, guys. If you're not sewing it the night before the event, are you even doing
We
it?
finished it off in the car on the way here.
Yeah, that's right. Perfect. Yeah. So this outfit literally came about because I needed more hot weather garb, and I've had this pink linen on the shelf for about 10 years, and I was tired of looking at it. So I figured I would make something out of it. Figured I'd go with Roman or Greek. Did a little research, talked to a Laurel or two. Decided to go Greek. The difference between the Roman and Greek would be like this himation here is very short and small. If I went later period and went Roman, it would be very long, and I would have it like draped over my arm, and I would look very fancy and exciting. But that's way too impractical for me. So
And also more layers.
and also more layers, and you'd be dragging fabric around
Kind
behind
of defeats
you.
the purpose of the hot water.
Exactly. So that's why we went with earlier period, if you will. There's lots of examples in Greek and Roman art where there were a lot of colors, beautiful patterns. That's why a lot of people in the SCA use sari silks, because they're already patterned and fun, like my mom's good example. But since I wanted to use fabric I already had, and it was all solid color, I had to go find something to make it more exciting. So, did a little shopping, ordered some trim, went that route.
Oh darn.
Yeah. Oh no. Oh shucks. $50 on trim. Spent more money on trim than I did on the fabric.
There.
Which is pretty much,
Standard.
yeah, exactly. And I don't have much more else to say about it other than it's really comfortable and I'm happy I made it.
And it looks like cotton candy.
And it looks like cotton candy.
What kind of pattern did you use for the clothes?
Pattern?
Yeah.
This is literally 2 rectangles.
Excellent to know.
And then this is just one, it's a rectangle. Yeah.
Would they have hot linen at period?
Yes, actually.
Really?
Yes. I talked to Dorothy about it,
Yeah.
and there were examples. She can tell you where. I can't.
No, that's okay.
But yes, because I told her, I'm like, I have this linen, I'd like to use it. And she was like, that would work for this region. And I was like, yeah, good enough.
That's cool.
That's the anachronism part here for me. But yeah, technically, there are some examples where they did have linen. So yeah.
Pretty traditional made it outside of that area, so.
Yeah, silk would be the better choice. Yeah, and I mean, depending on your silk, it can be the lighter choice too. But this was a stash busting project, so it is what it is. Yeah, or the less breathable, depending on your silk. Yeah. Yeah.
I like it.
And I'm not gonna lie, I decided to stray from period a little bit for the sake of looking fun and cool. So like this belt, this is not period appropriate belt, but it has like a really sweet Greek pattern on it. So the costume designer part of me decided to come in and make this more fun than period. Hence the fun, embellishments.
I like it.
Yeah, like I decided to actually allow myself to go more costume designer this time. And honestly, it was very freeing. So we'll see. I might do that again in the future. But there you go. There you have it.
Yay!
You know, I planned the pink, and I was like, I really don't want to be a giant pink sack. I gotta come up with something to break it up. Who's next?
I'll go. I'm not here to show off myself anything that I made because I didn't make anything. But
You're here to show off your daughter because you made her?
You did make her.
I did make her, but not the past year. So Evelyn actually wanted to come show off. We discovered last week that none of her garb fit.
Yep.
So, like not a stitch of it. Apparently kids grow over 17 months. So her gram, and for those of you who know me, I'm not normally Iron Age Celtic, which is ironic because this is Iron Age Celtic, which looks exactly like the Roman.
Yep.
Except legitimately linen. That's why I was asking about the linen, because the Iron Age should be linen. So I'm normally late period, and her daddy's normally late period, German and Irish. And so she decided she wanted to go Norse.
I like the rebellion. Yes.
Right? So, she is, yeah. So Mr. Sov very graciously put together a whole bunch of little Norse outfits for her, including this lovely linen apron dress and undergown. And then Countess Saxa made her little unicorn festoon. Because again, anachronisms. Okay, so you got linen on linen and all of the things, and then you need unicorns. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Right? Do you have anything you want to add to this, Evie? How does it feel? Oh, go ahead. Oh, the brooches? Those are grams, Mr. Sov's sheep brooches. I have another pair from Master Art, but I forgot to put them on my kitchen table. Oh, no. For her little ones. From Mr. Zinga, because I found that once the late period the child of late period parents decides to go Norse, everyone gets involved.
Yeah.
To make sure that she is the most appropriate Norse possible. So, how do you like wearing Norse clothes?
It's hot, but I like it.
Anything's hot in this weather.
That's true. So,
Anything but this.
anything but this is hot. Okay, yeah, you just want to go back down to that?
Yes.
Okay.
Very appropriate. Do it.
Right. Thank you. Here, bud.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I have one last piece.
Do it.
Something small and simple. So, she's not here again, but this is for our ghoul scribe of Avacal. This was commissioned and will be donated to the crown to identify the kingdom's tribal officer. So,
Emily.
Emily.
Oh. Who unfortunately cannot be here, but she asked me to make this and handed me the design, and I said, yeah, I can absolutely do that. So that's what I put together. Just a simple little medallion. But it identifies the officer.
That is fabulous.
And that's the official emblem in Britain.
Nice. Love it. Anyone else?
I'd like to.
Yeah.
Sure.
I know some of you who are doing ESCA will recognize this. It's based on, of course, the Norse treasure chains. And if anybody knows who Maura of Lincolnshire is, you know she loves cooking.
So I made this for her to represent her love of cooking with Schmidt spoon, her love of bling, her value as a person in all of the treasure chains that represents her value as a person to us. And because she asked me to, in honor of their majesties, these are from Vic's first ring that he made. She got 2 sets, so she's wearing them in honor of that. And I just couldn't stop making them. So there's another set at home with matching brooches, because of course they bought 2 sets. But I had fun, and the one thing that I've noticed with all the extant pieces, they're mostly from grave goods. So who knows if they were actually worn that way, because we don't have pictures. All we have is the extant grave goods and scraps of fabric that are stuck in the pins. And luckily, some larger pieces of fabric to show us how things are sewn. So maybe there's also one story, one representation in a diary that was written by a Muslim man who had met a Norse woman in trading in another city, and she wore treasure chains with green beads. So this is my interpretation of it, and as you can see, her value to us is immeasurable. Thank you.
Is there a significance to the purple stone, or is that extra bling?
The purple stone is because of her beliefs. It's an amethyst and it's soothing for her, and because of her health history, it also helps with that. Now I have to run back to my shop.
Happy shopping.
Oh yes.
Happy selling.
I assume Kaika's probably something. Just like by default, I assume you have something you worked on.
Whoa.
Is it that stool?
That's not mine.
Now it's a
That's a bigger stool.
Borrowing it for a second. All I can say, you can sit down. So, from what I understand, the theme is supposed to be something that we made during the pandemic. So, during the time, there was an awful lot of downtime, and some people started asking, or at least they were wanting something a little bit more fun, or at least something that was very personal. And one of the things which I was able to come up with is for the ladies of the Valorous estate, and they wanted personalized coins, and also they wanted something to represent that they are part of the Valorous estate. So when you make a coin, you have most people say heads and tails. The actual term is obverse reverse, and this is the die which I made for the reverse, and it's got a lot of little detail in there. Just gonna show it right there. It's the rose and everything. If you want to just pass this around. And that is the tails. It is the rose, which is universal for a lot of the women, for as far as the.
That's the actual order, right? Ladies of the Rose.
Yes. And I was able to put that in with punches and what have you. And I just threw it out there with pictures, and all of a sudden the attention that it got, it was pretty overwhelming. A number of people were saying, well, we want some. We need some. The Barony of Dragonspire down in Colorado, they wanted 200 of them so that they could hand them out at a tournament once everything started getting back and going. And then one lady of the Valorous estate, she approached me. She said, well, I want my personalized coin. Of course, that's going to be the tails, but the idea is that for any woman who's a part, or anyone who's a part of that, they can have their personal heraldry put on the heads, and that's the tail. Countess Corinna approached me, and of course she loves her elephant mermaid, and so is able to put in the impression there. You can take a look around. So she now has an entire set of coins with her elephant mermaid on it, and also with a back with rose. So Dragonspire grabs them, Countess Corinna, she has her coins now. Now, when is she going to plan on handing them out? I don't know. But she has them in her possession. And this is set up in such a way that a number of the former royalty or the countesses, viscountesses, and duchesses out there, some of them have contacted me and they say, hey, we want our own personalized coin. So it's available. They can get it if they want it.
That's cool.
Any questions? Or?
How did you do the tapping in, Titus?
The tapping in part, it all had to do with punches. The two main ways that a lot of people do the dies, they either engrave, which does, it's a lot finer, it has a lot more detail to it. You can actually make more refined and more higher resolution, if you want to call it that, as far as images are concerned. The problem is that if you do put in the image, and you have to do it, if you want to do it again at a later time, you have to do all that work all over again, and it's not going to look the same. The other way of actually putting in the images into a die is using punches. And that's the nice thing about punches, is that once you actually make a punch, you'll get the same image over and over and over and over again. You just have to take it, put it onto the die, take a hammer to it, strike it really hard, make an impression. And the thing is, the nice thing about punches is that you can do little characters, little triangles, little lines, little squares, little circles or whatever, and then you're able to actually make full-out pictures just using some basic shapes.
So are these the dies or the punches?
These are the dies.
Oh, okay, so
The punches are the tools that actually put the images
Yeah.
into the die.
okay, and then you use these to do the coins.
Coins, exactly. Unfortunately, I don't have an example of the coins because, well, I had to send them off in the mail to everybody.
There.
So,
What do you make the coins out of?
typically, it depends on what the client actually asks for. Typically, what I do is make them out of fine pewter, which is about 91 or 92% tin. There are some people who want specialty coins that they want to have handed out as a special token, and usually what they want is fine silver. So what happens is that, and this is what they had in the period as well, right about the 1300s, we know that they were using rollers. They were actually rolling out metal and actually making it really thin, then cutting out rounds, then striking people. So by the 1300s, we know for a fact that that's what they were doing. I got my own roller. So what I have to do is, if I'm doing pewter, take it, you just stick a hammer to it, you bang it out, you take an ingot, you make it really long, you put it through a roller until you have a consistent thickness, and then you just take that, make your rounds, and strike them. Same thing with silver. Just go to the bank, buy a silver bar, roll it out, get to the right thickness you want to. Now the problem that you run into is that when you're dealing with different metals, they have different properties. Pewter loves to take an image, and you can get them really super thin, and it will take both images on both sides. Not a problem, won't bleed through. Silver, you got to be careful. Silver wants to be thicker, otherwise what will happen is that you'll strike it, and the image from one side will bleed over to the other. So whenever you make a silver coin, it's got to be, well, in coin terms, pretty thick, 3 millimeters. So yeah, it all depends on what you do. And aluminum is is terrible to work with because it has a bad tendency of cracking. So anytime you try rolling it out, you're going to have a lot of significant cracking. Sometimes when you strike it, it'll split. But some people want aluminum mainly because it's cheap, plentiful, you can get a hold of it. And then every once in a while you have individuals who want gold. And the fun thing about gold is you can make that thing even thinner than pewter. And it'll take the image and won't bleed over. And period coins, which are actually made out of gold, they're roughly about 3 grams a piece. They're about 1 inch in diameter. And they're just paper thin, real paper thin. So they're not these real thick coins that we think of nowadays. You could easily just take them and just between 2 fingers, just bend them in half.
So would that have been period too, to have the coins that thin?
Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. The period coins in question, just absolutely small, very well, they were 1 inch in diameter as far as gold was concerned, but again, extremely thin. But then they worked out again about 3 grams worth of gold, which was a significant amount. Even today, that's a significant amount of cash because your 2.5 grams, which they sell at the bank typically, go for roughly about $125 a piece. So, but these are 3 grams, so it's even more gold. But yeah, the Romans having.
Super
strike them? Do you have one die on the bottom, then the coin, one die on top, and strike both at the same time, or do you work one side at a time?
Now you do them all one time. Well, I have something which is called a bolster, and in period it varied. If you were Norse, like you were in Jorvik, you were at the Coppergate, it was nothing more than a stump, not much more than like a dishing stump. You'd had a little hole in there, and the guy would literally just hold the die. There would be one die that would be in the stump, and the other one he'd be holding on with his hand and striking it. I'm like, good God, you slip and you're going to be in pain. But they would literally hold it in their hand, and one would have the tails and the other one would have the heads, and you would just strike it all at once. Now, as you go further into time, what I have is like a bolster instead of wood, it's steel. It is a 65-pound worth of steel, and the reason why you want it that heavy is because you don't want rebound. When you strike the coin, you don't want it bouncing and then doing a double image. Otherwise, it just messes things up. So I got that steel thing. Put one die down there. I have a sleeve because I'm a klutz. Put the sleeve, then you take the top one, you put your coin blank in between there, and you just strike it. Now the fun part is that by the time of Albie, whenever he was wanting his Hellehanda coins, the silver ones, the Hellehanda from Hella, Germany, by that time they had worked up the technology. They actually had the dies in a press, and they were just able to bang them out, bang, 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 all at one time, just from one particular sheet. And they were cranking out somewhere roughly about over 1,000 troy ounces worth of silver coins a day. They had engravers on hand, probably because the dies themselves, they're only good for about 100,000 strikes. They were doing that many strikes in a day. You had engravers who were making dies every day, probably because by the time you were done working one day, they were gone. You couldn't use them anymore. So they kept on switching out. So, yeah, by the time you get to Albert's time period, it actually became fairly mechanized. It was mass production worth of coins.
Can I ask a stupid question? Yeah.
No, there's no stupid questions.
Well, no, I can make it really stupid, but
Okay.
this one's not actually going to be stupid. Why did they start stamping and putting images on coinage?
Coinage mainly because the main thing is that you either had to deal with individuals who had, if you want to call it an ego, whatever, something symbolizing them, like you had, like with the English coins, every king wanted their particular image on their, this is my coin, this is my reign. But also the other thing is nationality, distinguishing what coin came from where. Because there were certain nations which didn't have a great reputation, or regions that didn't have a great reputation of using 100% silver or gold. They would sometimes mix, or they would actually mix in base metal with their coins and everything. Commodus, the Roman Emperor Commodus, he intentionally devalued his coinage. They were at one point, whenever they were at the beginning of his reign, they were 95% silver. He cut it down to 75%. This way he could actually print more. But it devalued the silver denarii to the point where it started devaluing in its worth as he went along in his reign, mainly because he was wanting to do a whole bunch of public works, but he didn't have enough silver on hand to pay for it, so his idea is, well, add in some lead.
Yeah.
Make more coins.
Make more coins.
Make them the same value.
Right.
But make them cost less to make.
Exactly. But at that point, people started not trusting the silver denarii so much.
Right.
So part of the reason why you wanted an identifier is that, okay, like with the older Greek coins, they would have, a lot of them would have an owl on them, or they would have a picture of one of the gods on them. And at which point, once you had one of these silver coins that you knew from the Greek area, well, you knew it was good. You knew it was going to be as pure silver as possible, and it would be traded everywhere. And the Hellehanders, which I mentioned about Albert's time, because of the consistency of the composition of what those particular coins were, they were traded all over Europe because everybody knew if you had a Hellehander, well, it is silver.
Thank you.
I think you could be here for allowing me to listen.
Anyone else?
I have a little one, and it's right here.
Do it.
Well, I guess my show and tell is that little thing right there. I learned over the course of this pandemic how to produce, write, edit, create, finagle, harass, beg, plead to make a web show.
Look, those are good life skills.
So that was my pandemic art.
Yay for group and identity.
Yay.
Yes.
Not what the thing.
Oh, and hey.
I did this before the pandemic.
Is she on camera?
Oh yes, I forgot your glasses.
I made it out of wood. So, it's you guys want to pass it around?
It's terrible.
It's not hard. Not super hard. So it's an astronomical tool. There's many things you can do with it, and mainly which are involving correlating time to the positions of celestial bodies, such as the sun and stars. And determining times for prayer was also a common use. It's been around for a long, long time, and was common in the Muslim world as well. So the parts of the astrolabe, the mater is the main part. It can contain other things as well, like other plates. Mine just has a plate and mater in one. And then the reed on top, all these little points are different stars. And this ring represents the position of the sun in different months. The stars are determined by stereographic perspective, if you want to know more. So with the rule, the rule's on the front, and the alidade is on the back. The alidade is used to determine what angle something is at. And the rule, you kind of spin it to the right spot, and then you rotate the whole thing together, and you figure out where step is. Where do you go next? So right there. Okay. So, as an example, if I want how high the sun is, I hold it like this, and I have angles marked on the back here. Right. Okay, and it's also in the east-ish. So it's about 50 degrees. So here I have 50 degrees pretty close to the middle here, because the closer you get to the middle, the closer together they are. So 50 degrees. First I should put this on, what month is it? July. Late July. So I line this up with the late July, and then, alright, so this represents where the sun is depending on what time of year it is. And on the inside here I have altitudes in degrees marked. So this one is 80, 70, 60, 50, so I would line up that with a 50. It's in the east. So it looks like about there. Which means
So maybe I measured that angle wrong.
No,
Yeah, as long as you know the dates.
The sun would be closer to the south, is what
Do you think
your
it would
issue
be
is there.
closer to the west now?
Rises in the east and sets
No.
in the west, so it's around noon, so it'll be closer to the south.
So one thing is if it's in the east or west, that'll change the time. But also we have standardized time now, so it's not just wherever the sun is, that's the time.
All right.
Here it's about an hour and a half off of true noon when it's noon. True noon was like 1:30 p.m. Any other questions?
So to use that, you need to know roughly where you are in the world and what.
Yes. Yeah. So you can determine your latitude from stars just using this. It's like a sextant kind of this part. So you could like measure where the North Pole is, and then you know your latitude. But for this specific plate that is the only one on here, we have to be at about 52 degrees north. Otherwise, this would be in a different spot, the center of all these rings.
Do you ever like look at something like this and be like, man, really creative businesses for like wizards? Like the person that figured this out.
There's also something called a Mariner's astrolabe, which is, I just don't get. Like, it works for all latitudes, and I don't understand it.
Yeah. Magic.
Don't understand. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
I might try.
So how did you did you cut all that out of wood yourself and then slap it together, or how did you?
Yeah, so I bought a couple rings and some more wood, like a heart shape from Michael's. And I wood burnt all these in. I painstakingly did all the calculations with the stereographic projection to figure out where they would be. And made all the circles and everything. And then, so, I have written on here without the wood burn. 0 hours, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. That's the right ascension, which is a way of saying where a star is in the sky. Not with respect to where we are on the Earth, but just relative to the rest of the sky. And then this is the application.
So when you put this together, and so you did all the wood burning stuff yourself, did you base it off a specific one that existed in Greece, or like several?
Not exactly. I kind of chose some of the brighter stars and some of my favorite stars, and just I just kind of came up with my own approximate design that I thought looked pretty, because like basically every one of them is a unique work as well.
That's cool.
I saw the class week, and I was quite impressed with it. It was very impressive. And I liked what you did with the documentations. My question is how are you planning on moving forward with this, and how are you thinking about moving forward with it?
Well, if I wanted to make like a metal one, I'd probably even want to use like laser etching to be really precise with my measurements. That would be an idea. And coming up with a better dangling system.
You mean the plastic and yarn's not period? That's good. I like it. I'm impressed.
Very nice.
I'm gonna go home and ask Robert to explain it to me. I'm like, you know, Paulina. She made an applet. Please explain how that works.
You would have to do a bunch of research too.
Yeah, he probably would. He'd be like, that's not my physics, Terry. Anyone else? Is there anything else?
Bex, didn't you make a dress on the way here? Wasn't that your post? No.
I already showed stuff that I missed. I made the pants, and those are still back from my attempt.
Yeah, she's not gonna show if she doesn't wanna.
I mean, to be fair, that was like almost a solid 45 minutes of show and tell.
Yeah.
I'm tired. I need a nap. We all need naps. Well then.
Hey, yay!